Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to do a little introductory video for a series of videos that are going to be following on the channel in the coming months. So I thought it would be a good idea for us to go through Gerhard's Sacred Meditations together. His Sacred Meditations are a devotional work, but they're a theologically dense devotional work. Now, as many of you know, Gerhard is a Lutheran scholastic theologian, arguably the best that ever lived. And so when it comes to our devotional material, a lot of it nowadays is simply lackluster or subpar. It is either heterodox or just very surface level. Gerhard's sacred meditations are fairly approachable, but they're not too light. They have some substance to them that we can wrestle with, that will cause us to think deeper about the mysteries of the faith and the different doctrines that the Lutheran Church puts forward. So, the goal of this series is to go through the sacred meditations chapter by chapter and to occasionally, pull from other sources to clarify certain points, but to primarily focus on the meditations themselves. And my goal is to walk through them along with my subscribers so that we can gain both devotional and catechetical benefit from them. One of the best ways we can do theology is within the devotional life. We should not be separating our theological study from the interior life. And I think the sacred meditations, even if that's not something we're used to, it serves as a guide on how to do that. So it is also important to note that this is one of Gerhard's earlier works. This is something he wrote when he was a young man. And so, for us young men who are studying theology, it's quite encouraging to see a work done this well and with such competency for someone that was only 22 years old when it was written. So, for a little bit of background, the Sacred Meditations were first published in 1606 when Gerhard was, like I said, 22 years old. It was written while he was it was published in 1606. It was written while he was a lecturer at Jena in 1605. So keep in mind, Gerhard is a young man and he is a lecturer. So he would have been doing courses or introductory courses for younger people, in the university. So we think of university now as starting when we're 18, but back then you would have started your bachelor's in the arts at about 15 or 16. So you would have gotten your bachelor's a little bit earlier. So by this point, he would have already had his degree in theology and he would have been a young lecturer, but not yet a full on professor. Now, in 1606, he accepted an invitation by the Duke of Coburg to serve as professor in the Coburg Gymnasium and to be superintendent of Helberg. Now, the reason I put this up here is because this is very, very impressive for someone that young. Now, to be a professor at the age of 22 in our context is impressive. But to be a professor at 22 in his time is even more so. I mean, the standards for education at this time were just far greater. And also to be requested by a duke to fulfill that professorship at a young age is a huge honor. But he is also made a superintendent in the same year. Now, for those of you who don't know about early Lutheran ecclesiology, they didn't like the term bishop. I don't know why, but they didn't like the term bishop. So oftentimes, presiding pastors who would be fulfilling the role of a bishop would not be referred to as a bishop, or rather, they would be referred to as a superintendent. But many of the responsibilities laid on Gerhard and the other superintendents of his day would have been akin to that of bishop. He's pastoring pastors and ordering the function of the church within a particular region. So he's having a lot of those same responsibilities that a bishop would have. and he's only 22. So, we can't go over Gerhard's whole life here, but I thought just to give kind of an idea of just how brilliant Johann Gerhard was. At the age of 22, he has already had his first work published, which is a wonderful work, and I'm very excited to go through with you guys. But he's already had his first book published. He's been called to a professorship, and he has been made a superintendent with the same responsibilities and duties as a bishop. So he's a very accomplished young theologian. And his reputation in the Lutheran tradition kind of speaks for itself. And even though this is not his most systematic work, it is, in my opinion, the most beautiful of his writings. So I am very, very excited to go through this work with some of you guys here on the channel. Now, there are a couple different translations. The one I have up on the screen from Justin Sinner is the Heisler translation of 1896. That is the translation I'm going to be using. I don't have the Justin Sinner edition particularly. I have an old PDF that I'll be using. But if you want a paperback version of the book, which a lot of people prefer to read in paperback, if you want a paperback version, they have an edition out for you. I think it's about somewhere between 12 and $15. It's quite cheap, and you can find that on Amazon, and that would be the same translation that I'm going to be using. Now, it's older English. It's written in 1896. It's not super old English, but there are going to be some thys and thous and nors and things like that in there. So if that bothers you, unfortunately, you're just going to have to suck it up to do the book study with us. And if you don't want to grab the book and you just want to watch the videos, that is fine as well also. So I hope that this gave a little bit of background to Gerhard and Gerhard's Sacred Meditations. I'm very excited to go through this with you guys here on the channel, and I hope we get a lot from it. So thank you guys for listening, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.